It is strange how a love affair changes face as soon as a new character appears on the scene. We spent many wonderful days together. We walked in the mountains and by the lakes. We read together, and all the while I completed my portrait of Wanda. How we loved one another. Her lovely face shone with happiness. Then one day a friend of hers arrives, a divorced woman, a little older, a little more experienced, and less scrupulous than Wanda. She is already making her influence felt in many matters. Wanda frowns often and shows a certain impatience with me. Does she no longer love me? This unbearable constraint has now lasted 2 weeks. The friend lives with Wanda and we can never be alone. Furthermore, the two ladies are surrounded by an admiring circle of gentlemen. With my intensity and passion, I cut a ridiculous figure as Wanda's lover. She treats me like a stranger. Today, while we were out walking, she fell behind the others and waited for me to catch up with her. Realizing that she had done this on purpose, I was overjoyed. However, this is what she said. My friend does not understand how I can love you. She finds you neither handsome nor particularly attractive. She regales me from morning till night with tales of the brilliant and frivolous life to be led in the capital, the ambitions I might achieve, the advantages I would enjoy, and the distinguished suitors I would attract. But what do I care for all that, since it is you I love? Her words took my breath away for a moment. In God's name, Wanda, do not let me stand in the way of your happiness. Do not be concerned about me. So saying, I raised my hat to her and let her walk ahead, which she did with a surprised look, but without saying a word. On the way back, when I found myself accidentally by her side, she squeezed my hand furtively and gave me a glance that was so warm and radiant that all the torments of the last few days were forgotten and my wounds were healed. Now I know just how much I love her. My friend has been complaining about you, said Wanda today. She must have sensed that I despise her. But why do you despise her, you foolish man? Exclaimed Wanda, taking me by the ears. Because she is a hypocrite, I said. I have time only for a woman who is truly virtuous or who openly leads a life of pleasure. As I do, replied Wanda playfully. But you see, my child, women can only live up to these ideals in special cases. They can be neither as purely sensual nor as spiritually free as men. Their love is always a mixture of the sensual and the intellectual. Woman's heart desires to enchain man permanently, while she herself is subject to change, with the result that discord, lying, and deceitfulness invade her life, usually against her will, and her whole character is affected. That is certainly true, I said. The transcendental quality that woman seeks to confer on love leads her into deception. But that is the way the world goes, Wanda interrupted. Take this woman. She has a lover in Luau, and she has found a new admirer here. She deceives them both, and yet she is worshipped by all and highly respected in society. That may well be so, I exclaimed, but let her leave you out of it. She treats you like a vulgar object. Is there any harm in that? Asked Wanda. Every woman has the instinct and the ability to make the most of her charms. It is an excellent thing to give oneself without love or pleasure. By keeping one's self-control, one reaps all the advantages of the situation. Wanda, what are you saying? Why not? Mark these words. Never be sure of the woman you love, for there are more snares in her nature than you can ever imagine. Women are neither as good as their admirers maintain, nor as bad as their detractors would have them be. Their character is merely a lack of character. The best of women can momentarily flounder in the mud, just as the worst can unexpectedly rise to great heights of generosity, to the confusion of those who vilify her. Every woman, good or bad, is capable at any moment of the most diabolical thoughts, actions, or emotions, as well as the most divine, the purest as well as the most sordid. In spite of all the advances of civilization, woman has remained as she was on the day nature's hands shaped her. She is like a wild animal, faithful or faithless, kindly or cruel, depending on the impulse that rules her. A profound and serious culture is needed to produce moral character. Man, even when he is selfish or wicked, lives by principles. Woman only obeys her feelings. Never forget this, and never be sure of the woman you love. The friend has left. At last an evening alone with her. Wanda is so gracious, so tender, that one might think she had saved for this happy evening all the love she has denied me these last few days. What bliss to feel her lips so constantly close to mine, to swoon in her arms, and then, as she lies against my breast relaxed and totally mine, to melt into each other's pleasure-drunk eyes. I cannot yet understand that this woman is mine, totally mine. And yet she is right on one point, began Wanda, without moving nor even opening her eyes, as if she were asleep. Is she? She remained silent. Your friend? She nodded. Yes, she is right. You are not a man. You are a romantic spirit, a charming suitor, and you would certainly make a priceless slave, but I cannot imagine you in the role of a husband. I started. What is the matter? Are you trembling? I tremble at the thought that I may lose you for no good reason. Come now, are you any the less happy at this moment? She asked. Does the knowledge that I have belonged to others before you, and that others after you will possess me, does that rob you of your enjoyment? Would your pleasure be less great if another man were to share it? Wanda, listen, she went on, this could well be a solution. You want to keep me forever. As for me, I am fond of you, and you suit me so well that I would like to live with you permanently, if I might, in addition to you. What a thought, I cried. You horrify me. Do you love me any the less? On the contrary. Wanda raised herself on her left arm. To hold a man permanently, I believe, one must of all not be faithful to him. What honest wife has ever been adored as much as a hetera? Yes, it is quite true that a woman's infidelity affords a painful but exquisite pleasure. And what if I were to grant you that pleasure? Taunted Wanda. I should suffer abominably, but I should only adore you the more. You would have to be entirely honest with me, however, and have the diabolical grandeur to admit, I shall love no one but you, but I shall bestow my favors on anyone I please. Wanda shook her head. Lying is contrary to my nature, but what man is brave enough to take the truth? If I were to say to you, this joyful sensuality, this paganism is my ideal, would you have the strength to bear it? Certainly, I am ready to endure anything in order not to lose you. I am aware how tenuous is my link with you. But Severin... Yes, it is the truth, I said, and that is why. That is why you would like, she smiled mischievously, have I guessed? To be your slave, I cried, your docile and will-less possession, without ever being a burden on you, while you drink from the cup of life, while you lie in the lap of luxury and enjoy every happiness, I would like to serve you, to put on your shoes on bended knee. You may well be right, after all, replied Wanda, for it is only as a slave that you can endure my loving others. What is more, the carefree pleasures of the ancient world are unthinkable without slavery. Ah, it must make one feel like a god to see a man kneeling, trembling before one. I want to have slaves, Severin, do you hear? Am I not your slave? Listen to me, said Wanda excitedly, grasping my hand. I want to be yours for as long as I love you. For a month, maybe even 2. And then you will be my slave. What about you? What a question. I am a goddess. Sometimes I steal down from my Olympian heights and secretly visit you. But what is all this? She gazed into the distance, her chin in her hands. A golden dream that will never come true. She was overcome by a strange melancholy, a wistfulness that I had never seen in her before. And why should it not be feasible? I began. Because slavery does not exist any longer. Then let us go to a country where it does, to the Orient or Turkey, I said eagerly. Would you really like to? Said Wanda, her eyes shining. In all seriousness, I would. I want your power over me to become law. Then my life will rest in your hands, and I shall have no protection whatsoever against you. Ah, what delight to depend entirely on your whims, to be constantly at your beck and call. And then, what bliss, when the goddess shows clemency, the slave will have permission to kiss the lips on which his life and death depend. I knelt and leaned my burning forehead on her knees. Severin, you are feverish, said Wanda compassionately. Do you really love me so much? She pressed me to her bosom and covered me with kisses. Her voice was trembling as she asked, Is it really your wish? I swear by God and my honor that I shall be your slave, wherever and whenever you wish, as soon as you command, I cried, beside myself with emotion. And what if I should take you at your word? Do so. What an attractive idea, that a man who worships me and whom I love with all my soul should be dependent on my every whim, that he should be my possession, my slave, while I... She gave me a strange look. It will be your fault if I become utterly frivolous. I think you are almost afraid of me now, but I have your oath, and I shall keep it. I shall see to that, she retorted. The idea appeals to me so much that I cannot let it remain a fantasy any longer. You must become my slave, and as for me, I shall try to be Venus and furs. I thought I understood her at last, but now I see that I must begin all over again. With what disgust she greeted my theories a while ago, and with what eagerness she now prepares their execution. She has drawn up a contract by which I am to commit myself, on my honor, to be her slave for as long as she wishes. Her arm around my neck, she reads me this incredible document, punctuating each sentence with a kiss. But this contract only mentions my duties, I said teasingly. Naturally, she replied with great seriousness. You are no longer my lover, and therefore I am relieved of all duties and obligation toward you. You must regard my favors as pure benevolence. You can no longer lay claim to any rights, and there are no limits to my power over you. Consider that you are little better now than a dog or an object. You are my thing, the toy that I can break if it gives me a moment of pleasure. You are nothing. I am everything. Do you understand? She began to laugh and kissed me again. A shudder ran through me. Will you allow me to make a few conditions? I began. Conditions? She frowned. Ah, you are afraid already. Perhaps you even regret your decision, but it is too late. I have your oath and your word of honor. However, you may speak. First of all, I would like the two following points to be included in our contract. That you should never separate yourself from me completely, and that you should never abandon me to the mercy of any of your admirers. But Severin, exclaimed Wanda with tears in her eyes, how could you imagine? You, a man who loves me so, and who puts himself so totally in my power, that I could... No, I said, covering her hands with kisses. I cannot believe that you would dishonor me. Forgive me this despicable moment. Wanda smiled delightfully, put her cheek against mine, and seemed lost in thought. You have forgotten something, she whispered naughtily. The most important thing. A condition? Yes, that I should always appear in my furs, she exclaimed. But I promise you that I shall, if only because it makes me feel like a despot. I want to be very cruel with you. Do you understand? Shall I sign the contract? I asked. Not yet, said Wanda. I shall first add the conditions, and then you can sign in all due form. In Constantinople? No, I have thought things over. What is the point of having a slave in a country where slavery is common practice? I want to be the only one to own a slave. If we live in a cultivated, sensible, Philistine society, then you will belong to me, not by law, right, or power, but purely on account of my beauty and of my whole being. The idea is most exciting. But let us go to a country where we are not known, and where you can be my servant without embarrassment. Italy, perhaps, Rome, or Naples.